Hello. Hello, and welcome to Useful Idiots Monday morning, where we go over the Sunday morning news shows that we watch so that you don't have to. I'm Katie Halper.
And I'm Aaron Maté. What a day to start the week, as always, Katie.
I mean, it's not just Monday, it's also Halloween. So happy Halloween, everyone.
That's right. Happy Halloween.
Now, I'm not at home. I'm out and about. I did an event last night in Washington, D.C. So I am going to, before your very eyes, put together a Halloween costume. And I want you to note that Aaron is in the comfort of you're at home, right?
Yeah.
And Aaron is unable to come up with a costume. Not to put you on blast.
You are
in
putting
the
me on
comfort
blast.
of your own home. Now watch this. Ready? Okay. I just wanted to show you guys how it's done. This is a last minute costume. Didn't plan for it. And there you have it. Nice, easy costume. Do you know what I am?
You're a tennis player?
I'm an athlete or a runner.
An athlete. Wow. Okay. Well,
good, right?
Very good. Very impressive. Putting me to shame.
To be fair, this is from this isn't mine and this isn't mine. I had to borrow it, but I'm gonna keep the track jacket on.
Nice, sweet.
Yeah. Now it's unclear whether I'm an athlete or just Italian. Could be either one.
Well, be sure to like the stream, everybody, if you're watching.
Yes.
And the more you like it now, the less interruptions we have to do to get you to like it later.
Exactly. We don't want to. Don't make me hurt you. It hurts me more than it hurts you when I harass you guys into liking. And you know what else you get to do? Join us at Call-In right after this. So we know that an hour with us just doesn't cut it. And what we do for you is make ourselves available at Call-In. For people who don't know about this, this is a free app that you use. You can use on your cell phone or on your laptop, and we will take your questions. And it's fun. It's a great time. And of course, to like the stream, because that's how we can spread the gospel, the Useful Idiots gospel, get more viewers. That's always important. Everyone tweet this out. Aaron, did you tweet it out?
I just did, yeah.
All right. Everyone watching, tweet it out. We really appreciate it. Smash. You know the thing. That's it. All right.
Well, look, speaking of gospel, Sunday morning is the time for gospel in churches around the world. And who better to spread the gospel than none other than the Chuckster?
Saint Chuck.
Meet the Press.
The media according to Chuck.
Sunday morning, Friday was yet another reminder that these are not ordinary times. Consider we're just 9 days away from the first national election since the attack on the U.S. Capitol. And obviously the threat of violence hasn't ebbed. The chilling and violent attack on Paul Pelosi, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's 82-year-old husband, is raising fears of more political violence. Pelosi's husband had surgery for a skull fracture and is recovering after being beaten by a man with a hammer who broke into their home in San Francisco. Speaker Pelosi was the target, but was in Washington at the time with her security detail. There was no security detail at the House. Both President Biden and former President Obama addressed the assault.
It's one thing to condemn the violence, but you can't condemn the violence unless you condemn those people who continue to argue the election was not real, that it's being stolen, that all the malarkey that's being put out there to undermine democracy. Talk has to stop. That's the problem.
A politics where some in office or who aspire to office work to stir up division, to make folks as angry and as afraid of one another for their own advantage. And all of this has been amped up, hyped up, 24/7 on social media, on platforms that oftentimes find controversy and conflict more profitable than telling the truth.
Donald Trump has yet to make any statement about the attack. The House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy did denounce the violence. Targeted violence is not new in American politics. Our country has a long history of it. 11 U.S. presidents have been direct targets of assassins. 4 of them were killed. Many others have been the objects of assassination plots. Democratic Congresswoman Gabby Giffords was shot in 2011. Republican Whip Steve Scalise was shot in 2017. Both almost died. But since former President Trump's election in 2016, the number of recorded threats against members of Congress has increased by 967%. That is not a typo, folks, to more than 9,600 last year. A month ago, Republican Senator Susan Collins warned of the surge in threats, telling the New York Times this: "I wouldn't be surprised if a senator or a House member were killed."
Whoa.
And
Maybe
the recent record speaks for itself. In June, a man was arrested with a gun near Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh's home after saying he planned to kill Kavanaugh and himself. In July, a man was charged with felony stalking after threatening to kill Democratic Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. The same month, Lee Zeldin, the Republican nominee for governor of New York, was attacked on stage at a campaign event. In August, a man was sentenced after threatening to kill Dr. Fauci and his family. Also in August.
I just want to bring up the fact that Lee Zeldin received anti-Semitic messages once on his machine. I'm not laughing at that part. I'm laughing at the following, that he asked Ilhan Omar to condemn them.
He asked Ilhan Omar to condemn the anti-Semitic messages on his machine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Left by randos. So he knows all about attacks and violence. Yeah.
August, a pro-Trump armed man wearing body armor tried to breach the FBI's Cincinnati field office in the days after they executed a search at Mar-a-Lago. In September, a Texas woman was charged after making death threats against U.S. District Judge Aileen Cannon. She's the judge overseeing the Mar-a-Lago document fight. And on Friday, a man pled guilty to threatening to kill Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell and 3 members of his staff. All of this adds up to a chilling.
Maybe that was over Fartgate. Do you remember Fartgate?
I do remember that, when Eric Swalwell was on cable news and there was a flatulation heard.
Right.
People blame Swalwell, but the other culprit who Swalwell blamed was Chris Matthews.
With Chris Matthews, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Chris Matthews, we actually did some very cutting edge reporting on this, Matt Taibbi and I. We looked at the videotape, the body language. It almost looked like Swalwell was dodging a fart, which made it seem like maybe it wasn't his. But Chris Matthews people blamed it on a moving mug. Anyway, I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's a good alibi.
Yeah, it is a good alibi.
Yeah.
So someone could have been very offended by the Swalwell fart, and that could have, I mean, I'm not making light of violence, but who knows what kind of things, what triggered it.
Yeah. Timeline of recent political violence. And none of these incidents, none of them, are even directly related to January 6th. That's where more than 880 people have been federally charged in the Capitol insurrection so far, including a man this week who was sentenced to 7.5 years in prison for dragging police officer Michael Fanone into that angry pro-Trump crowd where he was brutally assaulted. And yet, there is little evidence. Some on the right have tempered their rhetoric. And Pelosi herself has often been a target.
This is crazy.
He must go. He is a clear and present danger to the nation that we all love.
I'm going to Washington to stop the Pelosi agenda, and you're not going to silence me.
Biden, Pelosi, and other communist Democrats hate America, hate God, and hate our way of life.
We're going.
Communist Democrats.
I know, it's so cool.
Whoa. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I thought the farthest away was calling them socialist Democrats.
Yeah,
They've gone to communists now. Wow.
Marjorie speaks truth to power, even when it's inconvenient. It's an inconvenient truth, what Marjorie often says and shares. Yeah.
Yes. And of course, look, it's terrible what happened to Paul Pelosi. Chuck, though, is thrilled for yet another reason to talk about January 6th.
Right.
Because everything, it's like back during the Trump era, all roads led to Putin. That was right. Nancy Pelosi's mantra. She literally said that with Trump, all roads lead to Putin. After Trump, under Biden, all roads lead to January 6th. So this is, this is a big development. This gives them finally a way to make January 6th relevant again, because nobody was really caring about the January 6th hearing. So this is like far better for the January 6th racket than the actual hearings were.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that it's not a totally unrelated phenomenon. We can get into this more later. I mean, I think that January 6th, the hearings have been, of course, disproportionately focused on, and much like Russiagate, a distraction from real issues. But I think that, there is one of the things that did make Trump, unique. And I think he's often blamed for things that I think people often overstate what an aberration he is and don't see what a continuation he was. But I do think the discourse and the incitement of violence makes him different from other presidents. Now, that doesn't mean that we should ignore the actual violent policies of other presidents.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just think actually this is now, of course, we don't know exactly what this attacker, what motivated him. He sounds like he was mentally ill. And but yeah, certainly, absolutely, Trump is an aberration that he definitely does encourage a hostility and an animus toward his political foes that no other president recently has. I mean, Hillary Clinton did a variation of basically saying that the election was stolen and saying that Russia hacked the election and installed Trump and all that. But yeah, Trump is certainly more aggressive and violent. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So like, there is a connection. I'm just saying is this actually is more, I think, interesting to people than the January 6th hearings.
Yeah. Yeah. And thank you, Pedro, for wishing everyone a happy Halloween.
Going to end crazy Nancy Pelosi, and she's nuts. She's crazy. We're going to end her political career. Her political career is going to be ended once and for all.
Before Friday's assault occurred, the suspect, David DePepe, confronted Mr. Pelosi, shouting, "Where is Nancy? Where are you, Nancy?" Those were words that were eerily similar to these on January 6th.
Where are you, Nancy? We're looking for you. Nancy! Oh, Nancy! Nancy! Where are you, Nancy?
It all goes back to January 6th.
Yeah.
All roads lead to January 6th.
Yeah. Including somehow, what is it? January 6th led to Putin, right? As Nancy, as you said, mentioned on January 6th.
Putin led to January 6th, yes. Because her and Hillary Clinton, and maybe we'll play that clip later. They talked about they wanted to know Trump's phone logs from that day to see if he was talking to Putin.
Yeah, they want to see him. Yeah.
Yes. That's a classic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so who better to break down the state of political rhetoric in this country and the threats of violence and the problems with our tech platforms and allowing all this to happen than Amy Klobuchar, Senator of Minnesota, the former Democratic presidential hopeful, and total war hawk of, that clip of Lindsey Graham and John McCain visiting Ukraine and like telling Ukrainian soldiers to fight and make Russia pay a heavier price, which we played before back from 2016. Who was with them but Amy Klobuchar? So, very, very used to violence is Amy Klobuchar.
To do something about this amplification of this election-denying hate speech that we see on the internet.
Now that Elon Musk runs Twitter, do you trust him?
No, I do not.
What's your biggest fear of him running this social media platform?
Well, I think you have to have some content moderation because when you look at what this guy was looking at, he was looking at just horrendous things you don't even want to talk about on your show. He was posting anti-Semitic tropes. He was showing memes that showed violence and all of this election-denying pro-Trump MAGA crowd rhetoric. That's what we're dealing with here. And if Elon Musk has said now that he's going to start a content moderation board, that was one good sign, but I continue to be concerned about that. I just don't think people should be making money off of passing on this stuff that's a bunch of lies. You couldn't do that on your network, Chuck.
Nope.
You couldn't.
We have real rules.
You guys look at commercials and you decide if they are false or not. That is not a requirement of these companies, and we have to change the requirements on these companies. They are making money off of us. They are making money off of this violence.
I love that part where Chuck has to enthusiastically agree that he would never broadcast lies on his show. Right. Let's run that back.
Oh, sorry.
Continue to be concerned about that. I just don't think people should be making money off of passing on this stuff that's a bunch of lies. You couldn't do that on your network.
Nope.
Chuck.
Nope.
You couldn't.
We have real rules.
You guys
That's
look at commercials and you did.
We have real rules. We have real rules. We would never broadcast lies on NBC News, which helped sell the Iraq War and every war since, and countless other propaganda campaigns. Never, ever, ever. We have real rules.
Real rules. Yeah. By the way, Aaron, I feel like I should tell you that a lot of people are commenting. They're suggesting that you are indeed wearing a costume.
Okay. What's that?
Well, that you look like a devil.
Okay. Well, that's not very nice.
It's not very nice, but if you look at yourself.
Yeah.
This sounds like more like an exorcism than I intended, but look at yourself. Mm-hmm. See if you can see the devil. I'm not trying to cast out any demons. See if you can see why people would be saying you look like a devil.
They must not like my spiritual energy. That's the only thing I can come up with.
Okay, there's that. But your hair is.
Oh, my hair. Okay, yeah.
It does have a little two-horn look to it.
Sorry, I didn't comb it this morning.
No, it's okay.
Well, fair enough, everybody. Well, thank you for finding my Halloween costume.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I'm the devil.
Yeah.
I'm the devil.
Sometimes when we don't find our own Halloween costumes, others find it for us.
Yes.
Like the old proverb. Yeah.
Yes. All right. What else we got?
Now you look like a devil amputee who lost one of his horns.
That's an even better costume.
It is, yeah. Yeah, much edgier, much more original.
All right, well, the Chuckster has some data for us, everybody.
Oh, yeah, we got a data download. By the way, I'm looking left. I'm not like this. It's because I have my two laptops, just so people don't think I'm like searching memes online.
We are back. Data download time. So Democrats want to defy the usual pattern of midterms this election. They're going to need some parts of the electorate to exceed turnout expectations. And the group at the top of their wish list to show up in droves? Young voters. Let me show you why. When you look at our most recent poll, there was only one age group that Democrats were leading on when it came to which party should control Congress. Voters under 35. And look at that advantage. It's a 30-point advantage. That's pretty good if young voters show up. And the pattern when it comes to midterm elections is not great when it comes to young voters. As you can see, first of all, young voters in general usually are below the national average of turnout, even in presidential. But it hits the 40s. Twice it's hit 50, once with Barack Obama's first election, and of course the most recent one during Donald Trump's attempt at winning re-election. And as you can see in the midterms, it usually goes down in half. The one exception, 2018, had a pretty high youth turnout. And guess what happened? Democrats did pretty well in that midterm election. Well, let's take a look at what the interest in the election has been this year when it comes to young voters. It's been sitting at 42%. The good news for Democrats, that's much better than what young voter interest was in 2014 when Democrats got wiped out in those midterms. But it is not yet at 2018 levels, which is why Democrats look like they're poised to lose the House, not hold it.
Now, do we think maybe the lack of youth enthusiasm has something to do with a lack of issues that Democrats are focused on that actually impact youth's lives and their future? Is that possible?
It could be possible.
Is January 6th and protecting our democracy maybe not the top issue for young people these days?
It may not be.
Yeah.
It may. I think that you're thinking outside the box, Aaron. Saying something really provocative. But you may be onto something. Maybe January 6th does not speak to most young people.
I mean, abortion rights, yes, obviously.
Yeah.
And Democrats have been talking about that.
Right.
But
and thank God for Republicans.
Yes.
For them to be able to run against that. Yeah.
I mean, if you need the youth, then give the youth something.
Right. Throw them a couple bones. Throw them a bone. Yeah.
Now, when you look at the growing interest in this election season, it has grown for voters under 35. Before October, it was 35%. It went up 7 points to 42% in our most recent poll. But look at that compared to all voters. It was at 59% pre-October, and the high-interest voters are now hitting 70%.
I wonder what a comparable poll in Brazil would be, especially for young people with Lula. You know, Lula, who just won, something rare to celebrate in this political world. But I'd be curious to know how different that same question would be in Brazil. And I imagine the youth interest would be far higher. Yeah. Lula is actually a politician who runs on issues, not factional disputes with the other ruling party. Although, of course, that's a big part of it since the other party conspired to imprison him. But he also talks about real issues. And when he talks about democracy, it's not just in this in lofty rhetoric about fighting election deniers. He actually talks about democracy in which the people are involved in making decisions that impact their lives. And when Democrats talk about defending democracy, it's never about actually the public having a say in policy. It's only about whether or not the other party is not denying it if they win.
Right.
You know.
Fact of the matter is, Democrats, they don't need young voters to hit 70, but they definitely need young voters to hit 50 if they have any shot at holding the House.
I added that clip of Hillary and Pelosi talking about Putin on January 6th. Do we want it? Do you want to listen to it?
I think we have to, because how are we going to understand the current violence without being able to trace it back to that?
All right. Well, this is Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi in the aftermath of January 6th discussing whether or not Putin and Trump were talking on the phone right before.
We learned a lot about our system of government over the last 4 years with a president who disdains democracy and, as you have said numerous times, has other agendas. What they all are, I don't think we yet know. I hope historically we will find out who he's beholden to, who pulls his strings. I would love to see his phone records to see whether he was talking to Putin the day that the insurgents invaded our capital. But we now know.
See, again, this is on the level of kooky election denying conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
It is. You're saying that your opponent is beholden to Russia and that Russia may have helped direct or influence the January 6th riot. And so, but of course we never will hear any criticism and anything of this kind of talk from people like the Chuckster.
Let's keep playing this because I think Nancy adds some good words of wisdom here.
Okay.
That not just him, but his enablers, his accomplices, his cult members have the same disregard for democracy. Do you think we need a 9/11 type commission to investigate and report everything that they can pull together and explain what happened?
I do. Let me, again, to your point of who is he beholden to, as I've said over and over, as I said to him in that picture with my blue suit,
right,
as I was leaving, what I was saying to him as I was pointing rudely at him, with you, Mr. President, all roads lead to Putin. I don't know what Putin has on him politically, financially, or personally. But what happened last week was a gift to Putin because Putin wants to undermine democracy in our country and throughout the world. And these people, unbeknownst to them maybe, are Putin puppets. They were doing Putin's business when they did that at the incitement of an insurrection by the President of the United States. So yes, we should have a 9/11 commission, and there's strong support in the Congress to do that.
What's so funny is that, well, there's a lot that's so funny, but one of the things is that the 9/11 commission was so toothless. Teethless?
Toothless, yeah.
Toothless.
Yeah, of course.
So toothless. It had no applications. So yeah, if they want to waste more time on a meaningless, I mean, I'm not saying it shouldn't have happened and there weren't actual interesting discoveries, but it's just kind of funny that they're like, should we do another toothless investigation that has no policy implications?
I would love to see, after the January 6th commission, a Putin January 6th commission.
Yeah.
Investigating Putin's role in January 6th. That would be amazing. Yeah. Let's do it.
Putin 6.
Let's do it.
We call Putin 6. Also, I really love the way Nancy's like, when I was wearing that blue suit, you all remember that blue suit? Remember my look?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, of course. Yes.
And I rudely pointed at him. You think she has calls herself Slay Queen in the third person? Slay Queen was wearing her blue suit, really pointed at him. Yeah.
And when she said, she said, with you, all roads lead to Putin.
Yeah.
That's like her favorite mantra, really.
It's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally not crazy at all. Totally not kooky. And I mean, again, it's just the liberal way. It's the liberal MAGA. It's the blue MAGA. It's really their overlap is pretty impressive. How similar our two ruling class parties are. It's
blue and on, you call it.
Blue and on. Yes. Yes. All right. Well, speaking of election integrity, election deniers, the New Hampshire governor, Chris Sununu,
this is a good one.
He was on Meet the Press.
Now, can I tell you guys about this? Some background, okay? I got to tell you about Sununu. So in this clip, right, we got Republican New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu, and he's being asked about Donald Baldock. Bald, as in bold duck. That's how it's spelled, except one D. Baldock, the Republican nominee for Senate in New Hampshire, okay? Now, Chris Sununu was considering running for Senate himself as a Republican. And then when he announced that he was going to run for re-election for governor, Baldock said on a radio show he called Sununu a Chinese communist sympathizer, and he claimed that Sununu's business supports terrorism. Now, Sununu, for his part, has described Baldock as not a serious candidate and a, quote, conspiracy theorist extremist, end quote. So not surprisingly, Sununu endorsed Baldock's primary rival, Chuck Morse. Unfortunately, Baldock defeated Chuck Morse, and then guess who Sununu wound up endorsing? Baldock. Yeah, you're muted, Aaron.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, but so that's so funny. I didn't know that.
So he endorsed the guy who called him a Chinese communist sympathizer. He endorsed a guy who he described as a conspiracy theorist extremist. Yeah. So
that's really
has
funny.
Absolutely no shame.
That's very, very funny. That's very funny. All right, well, let's hit the clip. That's a great setup.
I've actually, each of the Democratic campaign committee heads that have done these ads supporting election denialists, I have put on this show, I have put them under this questioning. So I go back to you. Why are you supporting an election denialist? And do you think the inflation issue is enough to sort of rationalize support for somebody who thinks school buses of voters are going to show up in New Hampshire?
Yeah. Yeah, let me tell you, you're in a bubble, man. I love you, Chuck, but you are in a bubble if you think anybody is talking about what happened in 2020 or talking about Mar-a-Lago and all that. I know the press loves to talk about it. People are talking about what is happening in their pocketbooks every single day.
Look, I get
when
that,
they have to buy groceries or fill up gas. Or right now,
well, that
far outweighs.
Over election denialism. Okay.
How could they? Of course. Oh, my gosh, Chuck, this is hitting people. They're having trouble paying their mortgage. They're having trouble making car payments because of bad policies out of Washington. Should they be? Look, the beauty of the American system is every voter has the right and almost the responsibility to be selfish with their vote, to vote in terms of what is best for their family, the better choice for schools, better economic opportunity. And that's exactly what's going to happen in a week, which is why Hassan's going to get fired. A whole bunch of these Democrats are going to get fired because, frankly, folks that think that that the average voter is worried about 2020, the average voter, it's a serious issue, of course, but it is not what people are going to be voting on in the next week. And that kind of has baffled me through this whole campaign season, the fact that Democrats keep pushing this stuff and talking about things that aren't really what voters want to hear about, or aren't really connecting with the empathetic challenges that the average voter is seeing every day.
Well, look, because he is in the opposition, he can say that, and there is truth to it that Democrats. I think he's right that Democrats aren't talking these issues. At the same time, though, of course, what solutions do Republicans have? Granting these issues, nothing. Nothing. All they want to do, what was their major policy achievement of the Trump era? It was a tax heist, a bigger upward transfer of wealth to the wealthy. That's it. Yeah. So. That's what they've got. But because they're in the opposition, because Democrats are so feckless, they can pretend as if they have some solutions to all these problems that Democrats, he correctly points out, are not talking about.
Right. Yeah. By the way, Baldock also said that that children were being allowed to identify as cats and use litter boxes.
Really? Okay.
Not a verified story at all, but a very funny setup for a joke. But yeah,
I've heard that claim made about this happening in schools. It seems to be making the rounds.
Yeah.
In right-wing circles, that's
pretty funny.
Yeah. That's a strange thing.
That's a strange thing. People love going from human stuff to animal stuff. You know, like those same people probably were like, "Well, what's next if we allow same-sex marriage? A man to marry a horse?" Which just shows a really weird kind of orientation on their part.
Yes.
That's where your mind goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, this is a good one. We got Rep. Tom Emmer. Right.
Oh yeah. So Congressmember Tom Emmer, we saw earlier those ads from Republicans with one lawmaker firing a gun and talking about Pelosi. Well,
right.
We have another example here where he's confronted directly about it by Margaret Brennan of Face the Nation.
Turn now to the chairman of the National Republican Congressional Committee, Minnesota Congressman Tom Emmer. Good morning. Good to have you here in person. I have to ask you about what we've just been talking about here. How concerned are you about the risk of political violence, and how should it be minimized?
There's no place for violence, period, in our society. Physical violence or violence against someone's property. I think you've already covered that here this morning. The incident.
So first of all, note that he brings in not just physical violence, but violence against someone's property, which are quite different things. Banging someone in the head with a hammer is different from banging an object with a hammer.
In San Francisco, tragic as it is, I think we need some more information about it, but we should all be feeling for Paul Pelosi and his family. Hopefully there'll be 100% recovery.
And just to be abundantly clear, you denounce any kind of attack on the Pelosi family.
Absolutely. There should be no attacks, period. There should be no violence in our society. Again, whether it's political or otherwise, there's no place for it in a civilized society.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I want to ask.
Okay, now let's go. So there he is condemning the violence. Now let's go to 512, Wilson.
Unfortunately, that's where we are. I want to ask you about this when it comes to political violence. On your Twitter feed, you posted this video we're going to show just a few days ago, where you're firing a gun and it says, "Enjoyed exercising my Second Amendment rights. Hashtag fire Pelosi." Why is there a gun in a political ad at all?
It wasn't an ad.
Hashtag
I was
or a
tweeting
tweet.
I was tweeting out something that I had just
Hashtag fire
done.
Pelosi with.
It wasn't an ad, madam. It was a tweet.
Yeah, nice try.
Tweet. It was a tweet. Nice try. Nice
Busted.
try. Yeah.
Busted. Better luck next time.
I tweeted it. I did not post it as an advertisement.
I just shot at a target as a tweet, not as an ad. Let it be known. Let the record show.
The weapon.
Well, now
wouldn't a pink slip be more fitting if it's about firing her?
It's interesting, Margaret.
Why a gun?
It's interesting, Margaret, that we're talking about this morning, when a couple of years back, when a Bernie Sanders supporter shot Steve Scalise.
Which was horrendous.
When a Bernie
and
Sanders supporter
which is
shot
why we
Steve
should
Scalise,
be not
I never heard you or.
And we all know the tweet that Bernie Sanders posted of himself at a gun range in Vermont, where he was firing, and he said, fire Scalise.
Right, fire Steve Scalise.
Fire Scalise.
Yeah.
The billionaires, and Scalise. Boom.
Yeah.
Yes.
Boom. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Anyone else in the media trying to blame Democrats for what happened? We need to stay focused on what we're all doing.
We did extensive coverage of what happened to Steve Scalise. There's extensive
Nobody
news coverage,
tried to equate Democrats' rhetoric. People that
I'm not
say,
talking about your rhetoric. What rhetoric, though? What rhetoric was there to equate? What could they have pointed to?
Well, look, I do think calling Republicans Russian assets, I do think that probably fueled some people into believing crazy things who are predisposed to being brainwashed by liberal conspiracy theories. But yes, no, you can't compare anything that Bernie said, certainly, to anything that this guy has said and done in his tweets. Absolutely.
Right. Also, like, Margaret, you should have pushed back and used that argument.
I'm talking about what you posted.
This was her. I think this is it's such an easy target that I think she'd actually did a pretty decent job here.
Except she should have just said what rhetoric. Like that's
fair enough. Yeah, right.
Yes, but yes. And it's such a preconceived. He came in there like ready with this talking point. He's like, well, it's funny that we're talking about this morning, when just a few years ago. Yeah. Oops. Sorry.
Shooting a gun, our viewers just saw it.
Yeah, right.
Hashtag fire Pelosi.
Exercising our Second Amendment rights, having
That's not a debate about the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
That's not a debate about the Second Amendment. Hashtag fire Pelosi.
Yes, it is.
I love he said having fun.
Yeah.
having a good time. Just
having
talking, making allusions to the Speaker of the House being shot. Yeah. Right. Having a good time. Yeah.
Do you
running
not
the campaign
understand that that
operation
is
for the
suggestive to people who are in a bad state and in this current environment, how risky it is? As you're talking about the importance of lowering the rhetoric.
I disagree with you,
Why do you leave that up?
Again, I never saw anyone after Steve Scalise was shot by a
I'm
Bernie
talking about
Sanders
right
supporter
now,
trying
what
to
just
equate,
is happening
equate Democrat rhetoric with those actions. Please don't do that.
Okay. Looking at your candidates, Republican candidates have spent more than $116 million on ads that mention Speaker Pelosi by name in this cycle. If this is about the issues, why don't you make it about the issues? Why not depersonalize?
All right, well, that's silly. I don't think that's a fair point because, look, she is the Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
She is like a fabulously wealthy, out of touch elitist. And it's like if she's talking about if she who likes ice cream in her double freezers. And if you really cared about making about the issues, I mean, they talk about Trump all the time.
Of course,
It's nonstop Trump. And I'm sure ads on the Democratic side are heavily skewed towards mentioning Trump as well. So come on. I think that's a little.
But the question is, why do you have to have a gun in it? That's the real
totally fair. Yeah. No place in political discourse is firearms, especially if it's in reference to politicians or anybody, any human life. But yes, I don't think they can be faulted just for mentioning Pelosi.
Yeah. Well, let's see how that's it.
It is absolutely about the issues. It's about the fact that we have double-digit inflation, exploding cost of living. We've got a crime wave across this country that is the direct result.
In this moment, we are 8 days out. Don't you think this needs to change? Why not pull some of these ads? Why not just delete your tweet?
I'm sure people like to talk about anything but what the Democrats have done to this country, which, quite frankly, is exploding cost of living, a crime wave in our major cities that is the result of this defund the police nonsense and cashless bail. I mean, you look at New York City, where you put someone in jail at 9 p.m. for assaulting someone on the street, and they're back out on the street at 9 a.m. committing crimes again. You look at my state of Minnesota. Minneapolis has 6.
Or you put someone in prison for assaulting a Democratic politician.
Yeah.
After you encouraged it in your tweets.
Right.
And they're out the next day. It's horrible.
1,000 assaults since the beginning of the year, Margaret. Those are the issues that are top of mind for every voter in this country.
Yeah.
That's why they're going to show up on November 8th, and that's why Republicans are going to win in the midterms.
That's what our projections are showing. But I would suggest more pink slips, fewer weapons in our ads in this environment. Sir, thank you for joining us.
Nailed him.
Yeah. I mean, it's also so ridiculous, the hysteria around crime. Crime has actually gone down. Nobody runs on defunding the police. I mean, this is such a, I don't know why people don't push back on this more.
Good question. Yeah.
All righty then. What do we got next? Okay. We got going back to Meet the Press. Here's an interesting chat between NBC News correspondent Garrett Hake, Boston Globe opinion writer Kimberly Atkins-Storr, and Republican strategist Brad Todd. So let's hear what they have to say.
I think one of the clearest examples we saw on January 6th is when Donald Trump finally told the people at the Capitol to stand down. They did immediately. These are people reacting to messages that they are getting, that they have been getting consistently. And if you look at the political messaging that's coming out, you don't see Democrats threatening violence. You don't see them holding guns. This is the match
that's says, get in their face. If they're in a restaurant, get in their face. Tell them they're not welcome here. I mean, you're seeing plenty of this sort of motivation from people on both ends.
Banging pots and pans in a neighborhood or telling someone they're not welcome in a restaurant is not the same as going into their home and hitting them with a hammer. I mean, we're
absolutely
talking
no
protest
one, look,
is not the same as violence.
Absolutely no one is condoning what happened to Paul Pelosi. No one. That's not happening. You see Kevin McCarthy, Steve Scalise. No one condoned on the Democratic side condoning Steve Scalise being shot.
And by the way, I think the verdict is still out on whether Trump is going to condone it or not. You know, he hasn't said anything yet. And I think he's probably like, maybe I can get away with just a slight nod of approval for this attack. You know, he's playing, he's flirting with it. I think that's fair to say.
Probably, yeah. But it's here we go again with the Steve Scalise talking point, which again show us what Bernie said that made that.
What did Bernie say?
Yeah.
Show us the receipts.
There
are none.
Yeah.
Yes.
shot by left-wing
No, of course not. But I think there's a disservice to this debate if you conflate protest and violence. They are not the same thing.
It's very true. I mean, it's obvious, but they're trying to do that. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to show Steve Scalise. Their arguments are Steve Scalise and violent action against property or protest.
Yes. Now, the only question is, I mean, we don't know exactly what this attacker was influenced by. We know he shared some right-wing websites and some memes, but to what extent whether he was MAGA or not, for example, I think that would be really good to find out before we assume that he was influenced by, Republican rhetoric. Maybe he was, but it's, possibly they're getting ahead of themselves here a little bit, because he could just be a mentally ill guy influenced by crazy stuff he saw on the internet, and not not like a card-carrying Republican.
Right. We'll have to see.
There were some really wild theories put out there about whether he knew Paul Pelosi, whether they, but I think that's been put to rest already. Those are some crazy theories.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So keeping on with the midterms, let's go to Face the Nation, and where some pundits are breaking down Democrats' chances.
The Fed. The problem for the Biden administration and Democrats is a lot of their accomplishments are going to take time to be implemented. Right. The Medicare price cuts don't kick in until next year. The bridge isn't getting rebuilt until early 2024. Right. So they can talk about all these things in the abstract, but the voter can't see it yet. The president may know, come my re-election, if I'm running in 2024, people will see what I did, but they won't be able to see it before November 8th.
That's a good point. We've talked about the legislation that was passed on negotiating with Big Pharma to bring down drug prices. Those don't kick in for another few years and only apply to a very small number of drugs. So it's tough to run on these accomplishments when they haven't kicked in yet.
Right, it's true. And they're trying to run on these very minor tweaks, basically, that they made.
Yes. Speaking of tweaks, we're gonna have to tweak this like count, everybody, because where
are we at?
We got more than 2,000 watching, but only 800 or so likes. So let's all pause for a second. Smash that like button. Don't hit it again. Don't hit it again if you've already hit it.
Don't double up.
But let's see if we can get it to. Let's see if we can get every single person watching the stream liking it. We want 100%, 1-to-1 like ratio.
Buy-in, 100% buy-in, yeah. But what we will do is once we get to 1,000, we'll consider starting again. Where are we at now?
We're getting there.
I believe we're getting
there. Yeah. Thanks to everybody who's liking. Your likes are appreciated. Yeah. And when you like, the reason why we ask for likes, it's not just for our own endorphins, although that's the main reason. Like, we need the endorphins.
That helps.
But and our self-esteem, but really also more people get to see the stream if you like it. So that's what it comes down to. All right, we topped 1,000. That's great.
Yay!
Great job. Guys. That was a record time. Okay. All right, more from Face the Nation.
And thanks, Dash X.
Pick up on this because our poll shows 69% of voters describe the condition of the national economy as bad. Only 27% say it's good. You've got a piece saying out in the Journal saying basically American consumers are doing pretty well. Yeah. So why don't they feel that way?
Yeah, that's a great question, Margaret. The issue here.
I'm assuming more than $1 million a year. Everyone's doing great. Why aren't they feeling that way? What's wrong with them?
Yeah, why are they being such weirdos about this?
I mean, really, if you make a 6-figure salary, you really got to think about the optics of asking that kind of question.
According to Wealthy Pipo, P-I-P-O, her net worth is...
Katie, the net worths are all fake.
Are they? All right.
Yeah. I don't trust net worths. Like I've seen someone do mine before, and it was just.
Oh, okay.
And someone did AOC. It was like someone said AOC was like worth $29 million or something like that. So I wouldn't trust that count.
All right. Well, we'll try to figure out what her salary is. Oh, apparently, I won't say the net worth, but apparently she has an annual salary of $300,000 for working as a moderator. That's pretty low compared to like Rachel Maddow.
Rachel Maddow makes that in like a couple of days.
Yeah.
Of work. Rachel Maddow makes more than $30 million, and all she has to do, she only does one show a week now. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Just for one show a week, more than $30 million.
That's so crazy.
It's crazy. Okay. Speaking of crazy, let's talk about these price hikes and wages.
If you look at the labor market, 3.5% unemployment rate, what's not to like about that? But if you look at what's happening with wages, they are not keeping up with prices. We had another report Friday that shows that Americans' wages are not keeping up with prices. And so those real income cuts, nobody likes that. You drive by the gas station, you see how expensive gas is, and you look at what's happening right now with interest rates.
Can I say, you don't see this hairstyle too often anymore.
Yeah, you don't.
Am I right?
It's kind of Tucker. Well, I mean, maybe on Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, Tucker does have that, but he's got even a fuller body of hair, I think.
Yeah.
And it's very 80s and 70s.
Yeah, it has a Michael J. Fox
yes.
as Alex Keaton look to it.
Yeah, or Jason Bateman when he was a child actor too. Yes, I love it personally.
Yeah,
I'm with them. Let's bring it back, everybody.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Aaron, it's up to you.
A lot.
I can't do that. No.
Your hair's too wavy. It has too much
body. But also I'm committed now to the devil look.
Right. Yeah.
I gotta get the two horns constantly. Yeah. That's gonna be my new thing.
To do with that length. Yeah.
Yes.
This year, mortgage rates this week are above 7%. For the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage, we haven't seen that since 2001. So, yes, on paper, there are things you can point to that look great, but people just don't feel great about it.
What a mystery. The people don't feel great about the economy.
They could just change the power. These people don't know about the power of positive thinking.
That should be the Democrats' new economic plan, just a power of positive thinking program.
Major game changer.
And they'll, honestly, Katie, they'll probably do that.
Yeah.
You can see them doing that. Yeah.
I wouldn't be that surprised. Yeah.
Nancy Pelosi could lead it. Could be the lead guru. All righty. Well.
We got.
This is a Monday morning favorite. Rick Scott.
One of our faves, Rick Scott. Yeah, he's so great. I love him.
The senator from Florida.
Let's start with the attack on Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi. What is your reaction?
It's disgusting. This violence is horrible. That's happened. We had a door knocker in Florida that was attacked. I mean, this stuff has to stop. One thing I did when I took over the NRC a year and a half ago is I went to the Federal Election Commission and said, could our candidates and our senators use their campaign dollars to pay for security? Because, as you know, House and Senate members don't have security, most of them outside of D.C. But a lot of it is we've got to say, we can have a heated conversation about the issues, but this violence has got to stop. This is horrible. And my heart goes out to Paul Pelosi, and I hope he has a full recovery.
We've learned that the suspect's social media shows that he embraced conspiracy theories about the 2020 election in January 6th. I want you to listen to what President Biden said yesterday.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, so I stand corrected from before when I was saying it's unclear if he was influenced by MAGA stuff. So that's a sign that he was. If he was, if he was repeating January 6th conspiracy theory or 2020 election conspiracy theory. So I stand corrected.
Yeah. It was pretty clear.
It's humbling to be corrected by CNN. Jeez.
I know. Yeah.
Ugh.
But you know what? You did it, Aaron.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. Well, it's Halloween. Kind of feels spooky.
True.
It's one thing to condemn the violence, but you can't condemn the violence unless you condemn those people who continue to argue the election was not real, that it's being stolen, that all the malarkey that's being put out there to undermine democracy.
Is he right? Should Republicans do more to reject conspiracy theories and dangerous rhetoric?
Again, if I were a guest on these shows, I would say yes, and also you should too in pushing Russiagate conspiracy theories and everything, every other propaganda campaign from the national security state that you've repeated ad nauseum. But of course, they won't do that because Republicans don't want to criticize the national security state where so many of these conspiracy theories imminent. And so we're just stuck in this endless loop of the same old. Anyway, but it's a good question, and let's see his answer.
I think what we have to do is, one, we have to condemn the violence, and then we have to do everything we can to get people, make sure people feel comfortable about these elections. You know, we've got to do everything we can to get people comfortable that this election in 9 days is going to be free and fair, that people's votes are all going to be counted fairly, they're not going to be diluted. And so that's one thing I've tried to do at the NRSC is get people to make sure we're ready. I tell people go to the polls, vote, go to the polls, and be poll watchers so you can see that these elections are going to be fair. And we've got to work on it every cycle, get it better every cycle.
To be fair, Senator, most of your Republican colleagues, even those in the Trump White House, said that the 2020 election was free and fair, and that has not stopped the conspiracies from flying. So is it important for people from the top of your party, the former president on down, to tone down the rhetoric about the conspiracies that might instigate somebody who is unhinged, like the man who went into the Pelosi home?
Dan, I think what's important is everybody do everything we can to make these elections fair. We've got Hillary Clinton saying the 24 election is going to be stolen. We've got Stacey Abrams saying she didn't lose. You know, so my job is do everything I can to get people to feel comfortable these elections are.
They do have Democrats on the Stacey Abrams thing. She didn't accept her defeat in that election, and maybe she has grounds to. I don't know actually. But that is true that she didn't accept defeat there.
Well, I do think that what's problematic about the equating election denialism as like inherently treasonous or seditious or something is that, again, a lot of people, myself included, thought that the 2000 election was illegitimate
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, but the difference is, though, 2000, there was legit grounds. And 2020, when Trump did it, that was just nutty, as far as I know. You know, I don't think he ever produced anything approaching, you know, some evidence. Like in 2000, we had the Chads and the failure to order a recount, all that stuff. But yes, no, it's true. People should have the right to do it. And that shouldn't be just reflexively dismissed as election denialism. Absolutely right.
I'm looking to see. Okay, so Trump, we have breaking news from Sean Gels. Trump, attack on Paul Pelosi is a terrible thing. Former President Donald Trump, in an interview Sunday, called the attack on Speaker Nancy Pelosi a terrible thing as he rallied against crime in Democrat-led cities. With Paul Pelosi, that's a terrible thing. With all of them, it's a terrible thing. He said this during the interview with Americano Media, conservative Spanish language outlet. Look at what's happened to San Francisco generally. Look at what's happening in Chicago. It was far worse than Afghanistan. We have to give people the police. We have to give the police back their dignity, their respect. They can solve the problem. But today, if a police officer says something that's slightly out of line, it's like the end of his life, the end of his pension, the end of his family. We can't do that. We have to give the police back their authority and their power and their respect because this country is out of control.
Well, that's quite the rant from Trump there, and quite the detour into police pensions and livelihoods from attack on Paul Pelosi. But again, the second time in the show, I stand corrected. I said earlier that Trump was, I speculated, toying with not saying anything. He did say something. He did condemn it. And again, I was being corrected by CNN and by Trump, which is just humiliating. But I will learn
and
from
also Gels, who put the comment in. So thanks for keeping us on our toes.
Thank you. Yes.
I mean, to be fair, I'm not sure this article was only published today, but I may have broken before. But I don't listen to our problem. Our big mistake was not listening to Americano Media, the conservative Spanish language outlet. We're gonna have to.
That's on us. We have failed our audience, and we apologize. Yeah, we ask for your forgiveness.
Yeah. All right.
Fair. And I'm telling people, get out to vote, go be a poll watcher, and when we have the opportunity, let's make our election laws safer. Let's make sure that you have voter ID, you don't have ballot harvesting, you have monitored ballot box. That makes people feel more comfortable that the elections are going to be fair.
Okay. And just to be clear, I want to move on, but there's no evidence that they weren't fair in 2020.
Yeah.
True. By the way, I think he said comfortable like three. I heard at least three times. Yeah. It just sounds extra creepy. It sounds extra creepy coming from him for some reason. The word comfortable. I don't know. That's my personal impression.
Because he seems so not that. He doesn't seem that human.
Yes.
So he doesn't seem that capable of comfort.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got.
By the way, isn't it crazy? I mean, this is something that's all. I mean, this is a really important question, and one of the things I think about a lot. Isn't it crazy how you can abbreviate comfortable to comfy if you're saying, yeah, that's comfy. But if someone's making you uncomfortable, you can't say, I'm feeling uncomfy.
That's really good question, Aaron. Did you just think of that on the spot, or has this been something?
No, this has been on my mind for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah. If someone makes you uncomfortable, you can't say, hey, I'm feeling uncomfy. You can only say comfy in a positive sense.
Yeah, because comfy is cute and comfy is positive.
It's the same word though, Katie. It's the same word.
You can abbreviate it because
it's the same word.
You're making it diminutive. It is the same word, but something uncomfortable is negative. So you don't want to make it cute.
I demand my right to abbreviation at all times.
All right, you should say that. Look, I'm not uncomfy with your position.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we got this guy. I love this guy. Let's bring on CC, Chris Christie. On this week.
About Donald Trump. He's making the rounds in battleground states. He's going to Pennsylvania, Florida, Ohio, but not Georgia, very early before the primaries. And he's not rallying for Governor DeSantis to be reelected in Florida. What's going on here?
Well, this is shocking. Donald Trump is acting in his own self-interest as opposed to acting in the interest of the party. Again, this is what I've been talking about for months now. The Republicans are going to have to make a fundamental judgment after November 8th. Are we the party of me or are we the party of us? And Donald Trump represents.
All right. We see what you're doing there, Chris Christie. You're plagiarizing I'm a Bernie. Not me, us.
That's right. That's right. Wow. That's such a ripoff.
What a ripoff.
Yeah.
And this guy wishes he could work for Trump. He wanted to be in the administration.
Big time. And he kind of, sold his soul to campaign for Trump. And Trump didn't give him a position.
I know, it's really pathetic. Yeah.
That's the party of me. Now, when you see how he's making those choices, you understand that it's all about him. If you've said nice things about him, if you agree that the election was stolen, he'll campaign for you. If you don't, he won't. I was with Joe O'Dea, the Senate candidate in Colorado who you interviewed. He eviscerates Joe O'Dea because he said Joe Biden is the legitimate president, despite the fact that Joe O'Dea agrees on issues with Donald Trump predominantly. So this is not about issues. Once again, it's about person. And it's about Donald Trump and his own selfish desire to want his own point of view of the world, especially about the 2020 election, reaffirmed. And if you don't reaffirm it, which Ron DeSantis hasn't, interestingly, that's why he's not in Florida with Ron DeSantis.
Reaffirm or get the burn.
I like it. Yeah. I like it. Yeah. It sounds like Chris Christie is uncomfy with the way Trump is leading the Republican Party.
I'm very comfy with your assessment there.
Thank you.
I'm not uncomfy. That makes you happy. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, should we end on a brief positive note?
Yeah. Let's do it.
A rare glimmer of hope in this dark world.
Yeah, in this hellscape.
Yes. In Brazil, Lula marking a remarkable political comeback after being the previous president and then getting imprisoned and then having his imprisonment being exposed as a right-wing plot to sabotage his political career. And of course, he was freed after Glenn Greenwald obtained leaks showing collusion behind the scenes, including with Brazil's attorney general to imprison him. He won last night, overwhelmingly defeating Jair Bolsonaro. So here's a bit of Lula's victory speech.
30s, most of the Brazilian people, they said they want more and not less democracy. They want more and not less social inclusion opportunity for everybody. They want more and not less respect and knowledge and understanding among Brazilians. They want more and not less liberty, equality, fraternity. in our country.
Well, what a comeback. What an amazing victory.
Yeah.
And it's nice to feel some hope at some political news, which is so rare these days.
It really is, yeah.
So thank you, Brazil, for giving us that hope.
Yeah, thank you. Obrigada. All right, guys, meet us on Call-In where we'll take your calls and your questions. Perfect timing. We wrapped up on an up note, and I'm feeling very comfy right now. I'm going to feel uncomfy if you guys don't come to Call-In.
Yes, and I'm going to feel even uncomfier if you don't subscribe at usefulidiots.substack.com, where you get all kinds of bonus content for being
indeed.
a useful idiot.
Yes.
So thanks, everybody, and see you next time.
Great. Bye, everyone.